Hi guys, welcome back. It's Phil Murphy, Nauticus 27 foot, episode 32. As I said to you before, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing all this section, but before we do that, we'll just remind you of that music that we used to play. Right, so we're cracking on. We've got to finish this top before we can start doing the bit underneath, which happens to be in probably the same episode, but we might split it up because it's going to get too long. But as you can see, that drama of all that there is all done, finished. That's it. Now we're going to start this side of the boat. And what we're going to put on is, I've got a new horn coming. In fact, that's here today, but it's not arrived yet, of course. Anyway, that is going to go on this side of the boat because we're going to be driving from this side of the boat and I don't want to be seeing that. I'll put it over there. I think on my old photographs of when we used to have the boat, it used to be in the centre, but then somebody built something on top and it didn't look right. So it's going to go over there. And the reason for the horn going there is because this little bit here, I don't know what it's made of, but it's metal. Obviously the cables go into there and then obviously to the dashboard, so it makes sense it going there. Now the spotlight that originally was on this boat used to be positioned here. Well, I'm not going to put that there this time. That's going to go further down the boat, which I will show you in a minute. So what's going here? Originally, or I think originally, there was a mast on this boat, or there was a mast on this boat when I got it, and it's only recently that I've had a look at it and it looks in pretty good condition. So we're going to do that this episode. We're going to have a look at it and restore it. I had a look online, believe it or not, on YouTube, and I just could not find anybody that were restoring them. I saw some people that were making new ones, which I thought, should I make one? But then when I had a closer look of this one, I thought, do you know what? Well, we will restore it. And I'll include some of it. You don't want to see me sanding forever and a day on it, but I'll show you what I've done up to now, and I'll show you the finished article once it's been brought down to bare wood. And then we'll go through the process of what treatment I'm going to give it after that. And the reason why I want it back on the boat, aesthetically it looks amazing, because not the previous owner, but the previous owner to the guy that we bought it off sent me some photographs about 3 or 4 years ago, and it had flags on it and it had lights on it and it looked aesthetically really nice on the boat. And I thought, do you know what, I'm going to the trouble of restoring this boat properly, or to my standard as being properly. I think it should go back on. So that's what we're going to do this episode. You know, if we go to the hatch, I've just bought some more stainless steel clips because I think aesthetically they look quite nice there. And for security, I'm just going to put a couple of padlocks through there and there. I appreciate those people say, well, if anybody wants to get in that boat, they're going to get in that boat. Yes, totally agree with you. But it's just another complication for somebody, a potential thief, to think, do I want to be bothered or don't I? So I'm just going to put those on there. We don't need to I'm just going to drill some holes and then bolt them on. Going on to the light, the spotlight. The spotlight is going to go in between this gap here. So then it's obviously facing that way, and then everything should be covered that way. So that's about it. The nav lights, you know, the nav lights are already on the side. They just need the covers putting on, and I think that's about it. The only thing that I can think of that I would need as well, maybe an aerial for a stereo or something like that, that would need to be placed on here, but you can buy aerials that clamp onto your these poles here that you can hold on to, or the boat rails, I think that's what they're called. You can buy them to go on here. So that's what we're going to do. So we'll go down there and I'll show you what I'm currently doing. Right, here we are. One mast. Now I don't know what its actual name is, but when I tapped in on the internet, I put in Freeman's masts, and up popped Freeman's boats, and they had these relatively very similar. I mean, it's a slightly different shape, but they were about £500–600 for something like this, and I thought, wow, let's see if we can restore it ourselves. Anyway, this is it. I haven't touched it for like 5 years. I managed to drag it out from underneath the boat. Everything looks pretty sturdy. There are some cracks in it, as I found down at the bottom here, and to the point where I had to do something about it before we started filming, because John was out and about, and I just thought, well, I'll crack on and just get these two main things done down here, which I shall show you now. But structurally it's pretty good. It's obviously made of hardwood. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know whether it's, I don't think it's oak. Maybe it's teak, or maybe it's mahogany. It doesn't look red enough to be mahogany. Anyway, somebody might be able to tell me. But I'll show you what I've done up to now. So I started sanding it around where these cracks were. So basically, as you can see, there is a crack that goes there. It continues around there, and then of course continues round there and over the top. And as I found, I could actually open it up so it was all the way through. So it needed some attention. So what I decided to do was to drill a hole on an angle. I put a pencil line across, and I drilled a hole right the way through to about there, and I put a screw in with some glue, wood glue as well. But prior to that, I put a little wedge in here just to open it enough for me to pour some glue inside there, and I used a spatula, just bear with me. I used a spatula just to push the glue in to the point where it started to bleed through here. Then I knew that I'd got the glue all the way through. So then I released it, put the screw in, and then it squeezed out, and then I knew it was all nice and tight. So then what I did, obviously I've got a hole here, so then I increased the bit size, and I knew that I had some, I didn't have any of this wood as a dowel, but I knew that I had some oak ones, so I used an oak one, because you can't see it because obviously it's going like that on the boat, and I just basically pushed that through. So the screw head is somewhere around here, so it's quite deep. Glue, pushed that in, knocked it in, and I've left it overnight, and I'm just going to trim that off, sand it, and it's now turned out really solid. That also there, that was an issue. So I did the same. I haven't screwed and doweled that one because that has actually turned out really well. So there is a hole there. Somebody's drilled something into there. I don't know whether it was when these brackets were on. In fact, I think it was when these brackets were on, because I've noticed one hole on this side. I think it must have been dodgy at the time, and they've just reinforced it by putting a screw through to hold it tight. But anyway, that's now as solid as I think I can get it. It doesn't need to be over structurally solid, because it's not doing anything other than having a light on top, which is what we've got to address as well, because I don't want cables just dangling down. I've got to come up with an idea of doing a neat job somehow and getting the cable to go down here, but that's another episode. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sand it all down. You don't need to see that. You can see basically a start of it, and then when we've got to the stage of it being completely bare, Then I'll come back to you and I'll show you what it looks like without all this black stuff on. So I'll get cracking. Oh, John's very kindly lending me for all these areas a finger sander, which is going to be, that's going to save me a hell of a lot of time because it means me having to hand do that. So yes, I'm going to use a finger sander. Is that what the word is?
Finger file.
A finger file. I'm going to use one of those to get in all the nooks and crannies and what have you. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing now. I'll just put that in there for now. There we go. So with the mast comes some brackets. I call them a pivot bracket, and the reason for that is obviously when the mast is on the boat, it has to be attached to something, and these look pretty good stainless steel brackets. They look handmade. I don't know whether they are or not, but they seem to be starting to clean up well. I've just used some sandpaper with the grain, just as like a brushed steel effect. And basically what happens with those is, if I use the right one, is that the right? No, that's the right one. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. But basically what happens is that goes on there like so, and then of course it's attached through there with a bolt with a butterfly nut on the other side, and obviously it's up, and when you're cruising around and you suddenly come across a low-lying bridge, you either take it down or you lose it. So basically the pivot bit comes in handy when you go like that. You undo it, you just pull a clip out of there, and then you're able to comfortably drop that down to go under the bridge and then pop it back. So I think these need to be restored. They look okay, and I'll just sand that down and then we'll use them. So I'll get on with this and I'll see you when it's all bare. Yes, I know I said I'd come back when it was all done, but I just thought halfway through I'd just show you what I've done up to now. Obviously that was sticking up and I've chopped that off, but I found there's quite a lot of old stain and things like that I'm going to try and attempt to get out. Now I'm going to go on to the sanding bit. John's very kindly brought this, so I'm going to use that in this finger file in there. Naturally, mask on. And just another top tip before I do get all masked up. Sandpaper and doing it by hand is all well and good, but please wear gloves, because if you're like me, when you come to need your fingerprint, it disappears without gloves.
On your phone?
On my phone, on my iPad, on everything. So please wear gloves, because you won't be as embarrassed as I was when I was trying to buy something in a shop and they ended up needing to get on my phone to use technology. I know, surprise, I can use technology. Stick my thumb on, didn't work. And why? Because I sanded the bugger off. So there we go. Use gloves. Right, I'll mask myself up. Oh, and also use a mask. Look, that's just with sanding by hand. Look at the dirt that's appeared on that. Right. Okay, so I'm using a really coarse 80 grit, and the reason for that is because it goes really fast. Basically, it tends to warm the wood up and it bruises it. So with a coarse grit, it cuts straight into what you're trying to take off, and it leaves the grain open, which is exactly what I want to do. And I'll demonstrate that right now. So then basically what I can do is just finish off the edges by hand, protected hands, and they're going to finish like that in a nanosecond. So I need to get cracking all the way around here, all the way around here. I just thought I'd show you that.
Okay.
Just a word of warning with this machine, you have to keep it ever so light on the wood. If you don't, it'll grab and make grooves in it, as I found on the inside of here. Fortunately, I've been able to get them out. But if you just let the machine do the work, getting all this old stain out, as you just witnessed along here, it's absolutely brilliant, and it cuts your time down incredibly. So I shall continue with this and use as much as I can, and then I'll finish it all off by hand. Okay, so a couple of days have gone by since I last chatted to you. This is now completely sanded, or as sanded as I'm going to get it. Now the only thing that I have done different to when I last talked to you, I know I said I'd sand it all down, but there has been a gap and I got bored, and there was a bit of carbonized rot that was on the top that I decided to chop out. There was an old screw in there that obviously kept this in place. As you can see, it looks like a patchwork quilt, I grant you, but imagine where it's going to be positioned on the boat, and also imagine there is going to be a navigational light screwed to that, which is about 50 millimeters in diameter, so the majority of it will be covered. So I've basically patched up there in similar wood, hardwood, and once it's all varnished, or it's or Danish oiled and then varnished, etc., nobody's going to see that anyway. So that's a little bit of work that I've done. Moving on, as you can see, it's really rough. This is the rough stage. I've got as much of that black, horrible black stuff that was on it off. You can see that the only bit of black stuff that is evident now is in there, and quite honestly, by the time that's in position, as say for example there, you're not really going to see it. So I decided to make that as a, not necessarily a feature, but I'm going to gloss black that and then varnish over everything, so that's nice and neat, because ultimately, obviously, flags or whatever you want to hang from there going across the boat and what have you, you can still use that little thing there. Today, basically what we were going to do was just plough on and get some stain on, but while waiting for John, I found some more. I don't know why I didn't see it before. Well, I did see it before, but I didn't think I was going to do anything with it. I thought I could live with it. Anyway, it's bugged me, and I decided I would chop this other bit of carbon out here. What it looked like was, I don't know whether you can pick that up, John. There you can see that the carbon, that black stained carbon, is come through there. You can still see the hole, which of course I need to sort out. On this side of it, it's not come through, but that carbon on the other side, which I'll show you, was really coming across here, and it was quite ugly. So I decided to chop that out. And there again, another reason for that is where the position of the boat is, the position of this. You're not going to really see it. Nobody on the walkways are going to see it, but I was happy with chopping that out. And I've got here, I used the bandsaw to chop a little bit of hardwood, and I'm going to glue that into position. It might not be the exact way around. I won't push it in too tight because I've actually got it really tight, but as you can see, by the time that's trimmed in, sanded, and then its first coat, I think that's going to be great. Okay, right, so I've just masked it off so it just keeps the glue in located into one place. So I'm just going to pop a bit of glue into there. I've put I'm putting some. I've put some ridges in the back of this piece of wood, just to allow the glue to just grab this bit. It's tight anyway, so I was just going overboard with it really. So I'm just going to put a bit of glue.
Belt and braces.
Yeah, belts and braces. Although it's not a structural area. There we go. Now this is obviously going to squidgy out everywhere. Technical term in the Murphy household.